The CXPod is brought to you by Netigate. Netigate helps you put your customers at the center of your business. Check them out at netigate.net.
Welcome to the CXPod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the CXPod. This is Merete speaking, and I am here today with Joanna, of course. Hello Joanna, how are you?
Hello, and hello everybody. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. We didn't dress the same today, which is awesome.
No, we didn't.
No.
I was actually thinking of opening this with a good day, mate. But that's sorry, I just had to take that one.
Yeah. G'day, mate. Let's do that with Camilla then. G'day, mate. Camilla, how are you?
G'day, mate. I'm very well, thank you.
So we should probably explain.
Yeah,
we should probably explain this a little bit. So just before we started the recording, we are three Norwegian women speaking to each other now in English, which is always a little bit of a challenge because it is, even if most Norwegian people speak English, it's still a little weird. And we were talking about how that sometimes can go wrong. And then I was telling the story about my mate, Ollie from Australia. So yeah, thank you for that, Joanna. That's
okay. But Camilla, you've got a bit of a challenge today because you said you're going to put on your British accent. So
yeah, that's because of you. Then it's contagious.
Oh, it was perfect.
But I have to ask Camilla, and you know, very soon our guests or our listeners, I mean, are going to be getting to know you a little bit better. But just to begin with something totally different, how do you even have a British accent? Is my question then.
Well, I don't. It depends on who I speak to. No, if you have an Eastern European accent in your English, I would probably sound like I do too. So it depends.
So Camilla, that's really interesting because I think this is sort of like the brand experience from you then. So if you're from southern of Europe and you talk to you in English with that kind of accent, you'll switch and then, you know, you provide a whole experience of swapping your accent in English when you talk to different people. That's actually a nice little touch on the meeting Camilla.
I can't have, it's not on purpose, really. It just happens. Yeah.
Great. So, jokes aside, welcome to the CXPod. You're also a pretty close friend of mine, we have to say. We've known each other for quite a few years. We work together. So I'm going to give you the honor of telling everyone the story of who you are and even if you want to, how we met. And I just have to tell all the listeners who hear coughing in the background, unfortunately, I cannot do anything about my son having a terrible cough. So we're just going to have to try to live with that until he falls asleep.
Yeah, I'm Camilla, and I've worked with Merete for, I don't know, maybe close to 10 years in total. We first met in Sector Alarm many years ago, and then Merete worked some other places before she started in ICE. And then I started in ICE too, because I've heard a lot of great stuff about ICE and that it was a cool place to work. So when I left Sector Alarm, I found Merete in ICE, which was very nice. Of course, to have a friend and someone on the inside. So I currently work as lead customer experience or lead CX in Lyse Tele, but with the ICE brand. And I've been there for 5.5 years now, but my current role I've had since February this year. So that is quite new. But I've always worked with the customer in mind, or their best interests in mind.
So and so just to explain the Lyse Tele thing. So they bought ICE,
which is
a mobile Well, you go ahead, Camilla.
Yeah, ICE is one of three mobile network providers in Norway. Strong competition from Telenor and Telia, who may probably have heard about. And ICE is the third one. We build our own network. And Lyse is a giant company situated in western part of Norway, which lacked this telecom industry in their portfolio. So they bought ICE and made it into being their provider of mobile services, both mobile broadband and, of course, telephone services. And that happened almost 2 years ago, but from February this year, we became Lyse Tele, which is the telecom part of Lyse, the Lyse concern, and then ICE is one of the brands now, part of Lyse Tele, together with Altibox and the Nice Mobil.
Yeah, so it's quite a big concern that you're part of now, Camilla. And you what did you say your current role was now? Customer
lead
CX? Lead
yes,
CX
for the ICE brand. So I think I'm lucky to be able to focus on only one brand and the customer of that brand. But of course, we talk together all the time across the company. But my baby is ICE brand. Is the ICE brand still? Yeah,
I like
and
that.
it's very nice. I just had to do that. It's very nice that you work with ICE. Sorry.
And they also have Nice, so that's extra nice.
Mobility.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's great that you actually emphasize the fact that you're working with one brand and not across the group of Lyse Tele, because it's we talk so much about brand experience and how everything needs to be consistent, and then again, if you're trying to work on two brands at the same time, it's quite easily actually to sort of drop the ball and lose track of tone of voice and all of that. So I think it's really cool that you're mentioning it. And I also just want to sort of delve a little bit further into who you are, Camilla, because I think you have a really interesting background as well. So, you said that you worked in home alarms, and now that you're in telecom, but you also said that, working close with the customers. So can you tell us just a little bit more about the role that you have maybe now, and sort of what it is that you care the most about, and because this is, after all, the CXPod. So I just want to sort of.
Yeah, I think I have to go back to where it started after finishing my studies. I'm educated in marketing, and started my first job as a churn consultant, thinking that this is just the first job on my way to something bigger, because I was my plan was, of course, to work with marketing, one of the marketing agencies, maybe creating commercials, that sort of thing. Brand manager was the dream job. But I found myself staying for 10 years in that company, and also found that my passion wasn't pure marketing. It was more the care for the customer, in that sense that I was evolving through different roles, but always focusing on the well-being of our customers. How is it to be a customer? How do we meet the customers? How do we talk to them? What do we say to them? And through my 10 years, I earned the right to interfere with everything that the customer would experience in some sort of way, and I loved it. So I could never work in marketing, I think, or at least pure marketing, because I found that this was the more right thing for me to do. Although I think marketing is still very fun, but it's not my area of expertise. It has become customer experience and how we can improve, identify customer pains, Can we improve them? Can we heal them? Can we do something about them? And when you make that happen, it's very satisfying in your job. It creates a sense of mastering something, which is great.
I hear that you had this dream of going towards being a brand manager, but I automatically, once you started telling your story and your passion, I was thinking, but you're a brand carer, and without the work that you do operationally, then the brand would suffer. This is like, for a brand manager, this is like the ultimate partner that they need within the organization for a brand success, because there's one thing communicating what we're going to do, and then there's something else ensuring that we're able to deliver it. So I think it's such an essential role that you have, and the way that you've described it is really interesting. So thank you, Camilla. Camilla, I've got another question for you, because of course we are on the CXPod. Yeah. How would you define customer experience in your own words?
I think I would divide it into three. It's how it is to become a customer and to be a customer, and also how it is to leave or stop being a customer, and how does the customer experience all the small and big meetings with you as a company, big or small, it doesn't matter, because everything adds to the total experience of interacting with you as a company. So you can't neglect any of those steps throughout the whole customer journey. Although I've always worked mostly with existing customers, but now as a lead CX, I have to focus just as much on the sales process and what does happen there when the customer, before it even becomes a customer, how is that experience, and also the exit. What do we do then? Do we just say goodbye and kick them out of the door, or do we create a little bit sad moment for the customer, in that sense that it hurts a bit, but it will be a warm welcome back, if that's a beautiful exit.
Yeah, I think that's so lovely that you pick up on that point, Camilla, and I think it's something we don't think so much about, that the how a customer leaves, and that experience should also be taken care of, because ultimately that's also one of the freshest memories they've got in their mind, and if that's managed poorly, then you result in the chances of them coming back to you, as well as, of course, you're encouraging bad word of mouth. So nice reflection.
And also that feeling, and I remember this from my time in ICE as well, it's not about making you feel bad for leaving, but it's all about sort of emphasizing the fact that we are actually sad to see you go, but we do want to wish you welcome back whenever you are ready to come and join us again. And I think this is something that at least ICE has done, I think, throughout the whole sort of existence of the company. They've always been really concerned about the leaving experience should also be a good experience, because there are so many brands out there, not just in the telecom industry, but I think in general as well, that you want to quit your subscription, and then they try to save you. They want to sort of do the anti-churn thing, and then the retention thing, and they want to sort of give you a discount. And if that doesn't work, they want to give you another discount, or even sort of add some extra services. And then if you leave, it's like, okay, fuck you, bye then.
Yeah.
We
it's want just... it to be, it should be easy to leave, but hard to say goodbye. That's something we try to achieve. But of course, we have a anti-churn toolbox as well. But you should be left with that feeling, at least, that when the time is right, I will come back to you.
Yeah. So I have to ask, who made the decision that this is the way ICE wanted to do things? So in general, who is responsible for customer experience then in ICE? And who makes the decisions that, this is the sort of provider that we want to be?
Well, I think ICE has wanted that for for years because it's been part of the customer promises for quite some time. But when you ask me who is responsible for CX, I would say everyone. It's because it is not enough to have one person responsible by title. It needs to be in every part of the organization, and also top management is very important, because if they don't think it's important, why should anyone else care? But at the same time, I think you should be careful to introduce customer promises too early when you are in a phase of growth, because then it is all about growth, which is fair enough. But don't say that we are customer centric, or we always put our customers' needs first, if it isn't true. It doesn't help to put it on posters on the wall, and then what really matter is the sales numbers.
Yeah. Is she talking a little bit about CX washing there now, is she, Joanna?
Yeah, we need that too, of course, but all in different. You need to know where in the journey the whole company is. If it is growth, then it is growth, and then you come to next phase where you can care about both growth and customer and the existing customers, because they're part of the equation of growth and become more and more important of that equation. So who decided that that's how we want to roll? I think you have people who have been there for a long time fighting for it, but also people like you, Merete, who were in and planted some seeds and then left, but the seeds grew
Nice.
along with the company, so that
is it a tree now?
Yeah, full flowers. No, but it takes time, and I think a company needs to acknowledge that it needs time to achieve that phase where you can actually focus on both
and mature, and even understand sort of what opportunities do you actually have to provide the experience that you promise your customers, right? Because learning by doing, I think, is crucial. But also I love the fact that you so specifically say you cannot say that you focus on the customer if growth is what you're focusing on, because I think this is the reason why we've been talking a lot about CX washing lately. And I think when a brand sort of sets the expectation of being very customer centric, but then at the end of the day they don't deliver as promised, right? So basically we hear about pink washing or green washing, and CX washing has become a term for us, at least. So, and I think, it's just sort of drawn my attention to the fact that a lot of brands and companies are CX washing without the intention of doing so, or even without understanding that they're doing it, because the intention is good, but the way to hell is paved with what is the saying? Yeah, I don't remember, but you know what I mean. So, it's interesting. And I think the fact that everyone is responsible as well for the customer experience, you have someone with CX in the title to sort of run the programs and run the initiatives, and probably even carrying the culture on their shoulders to be customer centric. I think that's it's fascinating. So moving on a little bit, we also like to ask our guests on the show, just from your point of view, what do you feel is the most significant challenge that companies face today when it comes to serving customers with a good experience?
I think that we see customers expecting more and more, both when it comes to personalization, options, flexibility, faster delivery, that sort of things. And at the same time, they guard their personal information more than ever, because of, obviously, due to GDPR, but also the imminent threat of being the risk of
the
fraud.
ID theft. Yeah.
Fraud. So it's hard for a company to meet the expectations when the customer aren't giving or providing the data. So you have to make the best of what the data you have always, but at the same time you have to make money. So I think maybe there's a gap between what is possible for a company and also what to meet the expectations of the customer, because it needs to be when you order something online, you expect to have it on your doormat at least the day after, if not within hours. And it takes a huge amount of resources to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And also, you expect the company you're a customer with to know that I need this at this moment, so you should tell me that I need this before I even know it myself, because you know me. You should know who I am.
But I'm not giving you my data.
I cannot do that if I don't provide the data. So then there's some discrepancy there, I think.
So here's a rabbit hole for us, as I like to do it. I was just wondering, because ICE is sort of the freshest telecom provider or network provider in Norway. So it's the third biggest company, but it's also with its own network. So basically all the other mobile companies that are not Telia and Telenor, they don't have their own network. They are sort of renting network space in other operators. So ICE is the third and the last, so to say, and probably the challenger in so many ways. So where I'm getting at with this is the expectations from the customers, having been with big companies with probably bigger budgets, and they've been around for longer, like Telenor and Telia. What does that do to their expectations, and how can you sort of meet the expectations that they have to the companies that they've been with now that they want to try the challenger, who probably now you've come very much further than what we had when I was there. But I remember this as sort of like a challenge, and I would just love to hear a little bit about your thoughts on this from today's perspective. Now that you've actually grown as much as you have, because I think you've doubled the amounts of customers since I left.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the mindset the customer has also, because you have the type of customer who think it's really cool that we are the challenger. And by default is more patient with us. So if something goes wrong, it's okay, they're trying, and that's okay. And you have the other sort of customer, which who thinks that everything was better where I came from, and there's one little mistake, and okay, I'm going back. So you have both sides, but what we see is that as we consistently improve our network, we're building more and more sites, and also improving the sites we already have. We are also building patience with our customer base. So
when you refer to building sites, that means building out the network so that you can get coverage more places, right?
Yes, that's right. So we see that if something wrong happens, which will happen to Telia and Telenor as well, it doesn't hit us as hard as it would do a few years ago, because the customers know that we're good, and they stay.
They trust you, basically.
They trust us, yes. And that's something that comes over time. You cannot change that just by saying that, but we'll build so and so many sites. They have to experience it, and also it's the difference between actual coverage and perceived coverage. It might be even a problem that it has nothing to do with us as a provider, but we are to blame in the customer's head, and then we are to blame because that's the experience. But we can see that the patient grows over time.
Yeah, and it's very clear, Camilla or Merete, because you've both sort of been in this story before in this journey, that it has always been on the agenda to work in a customer-centric manner. It appears, and that is of course what builds up the trust over a long time. So I think that brings us really nicely to the next question as well, which is, in your opinion, what would you say are the attributes of a successful customer, of a customer-centric company? And I think you can probably bring these attributes out of your own experience.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think top management is absolutely vital to succeed, because if they don't think it's important, why should anyone else bother? But I also think it's important to have people who have CX in their title, because then they are allowed, or it's expected of them to speak for the customer. And those persons need to familiarize themselves with all corners of the company to create relations and to tell other people that they exist, because then they are involved earlier in processes when developing a new product or a new customer journey. Then they are involved from the beginning.
Yeah.
And not after launch, when this went wrong. What did happen here? Oh, we forgot to think about that. Because then you have dedicated people actually working to make sure that the customer's needs are met or taken care of. And you can have new customer journeys, but you also have a ton of existing customer journeys, which might not be documented or mapped or revisited for a long time, which is just as important to maintain and maybe improve. Maybe they are outdated, so that's also important. But just to create a culture or an environment where it's natural to speak about how should a customer experience this, and what does happen when he clicks there or does this, and so forth.
Yeah. And maybe even what's not going to happen, like that they may expect.
Yeah,
but
and what happened what do we do when it goes wrong? Because you have a happy path. You have the customer is supposed to meet A, B, C, D, E, F, and then everything is fine. But what happens when the customer does something else, or when the process fails? What do we do
when the customer actually has their own opinions, and they are in self-control, and they can click a different button than what you planned for them to do, right?
Yes. What do we do then?
I remember the first time I mapped a customer journey together with a company. This was way back before the ICE time as well, but we drew the customer journey, and it's like, you become aware, and then you buy, and then you sort of early use, and then you use. And then I think the fifth step was something goes wrong. And then we're like, oh, so things always go wrong here. They never go wrong before or after or, later. It's always, just in between, like early use and use, or maybe the first invoice. That's when things go wrong. Oh, really? Right. So we decided to take it all out of the journey and just put it underneath instead, and say things can go wrong all the time, people. Every single day things go wrong. We need to sort of have an apparatus for that. But it was just, journey mapping gone very well in many ways, but also a little bit wrong. 0.5, something goes wrong. But yeah, so back to you, Camilla. I think, and again, because I know the industry you're in, so I know a little bit about what you've done previously, but and I find this question really interesting because everyone has sort of like a different take on it. So drum roll, here it comes. How do you sort of, well, let me ask the question first. What is your take on voice of the customer management? So basically surveys, gathering insights about the customer experience that you provide. Let me start there, and then I'll go down to the rabbit hole after.
Yeah, I think always be listening to your customers. create systems that enables you to collect feedback, whether it's through customer satisfaction score after a conversation or phone call with customer service, or it's a feedback button on your website or in the app. Always be listening to what they say, because quite often they have brilliant ideas on new features or little or large improvements for your service. And if you don't ask them, how would you know what they need or what they miss about you and your service? And so I would recommend you to put yourself in a position where you are able to collect the feedback and to analyze it, and of course to act upon it. But also you need a large portion of pragmatism together with it, because you can easily say that this one customer said this. Oh my God, we have to. Where's the alarm button? We need to fix this. And then it's this one customer, which of course is important, but then you have to make sure you consider volume and effort. Is it worth fixing? Was it a one-time episode, or is this something that hits a large portion of our customers? So don't read it and run along to go fix it right away. You need some sense to it.
Or systems.
Yeah. I mean, haven't we all been running after that one email that was sent to the CEO, and then the whole management group sort of fell off their chairs, and then you're fixing a problem for one specific guy who just happened to have the email address or find the email address for the CEO. So yeah.
I think you need to breathe, keep yourself calm, analyze it. Is it worth fixing? Does it create? What is the impact of fixing it? What effort is
So how
needed?
do you take into consideration these things then, with the feedback and the insights that you gather?
What do you mean, taking how we work with it?
Yeah, sort of how do you decide which efforts are to be made, and which problems are to be solved and which problems are to be sort of lived with, or
Well, I think volume is a clue here, because if many enough customer experience it, then it's probably a large or much larger than we actually think, because it's only a fraction of the customers who are actually telling us that something is wrong. So if there's enough customers telling us the same, I think that's a pretty good indicator that we need to do something. And then, but at the same time, can we do something about it, or is it the customer does something wrong, and then we explain why it is wrong in a fully understandable way? Maybe that's okay, because we cannot solve it in any other way than we do today. So then we need to leave it, or it's good enough, which is also a healthy take on some of those issues, that it's good enough and we have to move on. So you can't win every battle within CX, but I think you will come a long way if you prove that it's a large enough problem which has also a possible solution, and will it be worth fixing?
The business impact.
So just a short follow-up question on the Voice of the Customer programs then, if you don't mind. And this is a little bit because I've been around, but I was just wondering, how are you exposing the voice of the customer to the organization then? Like, how do you let every single employee know how the customer feel and what they like and don't like about you? Is that something that you sort of using to your advantage maybe, or are you even doing that these days?
I would say we do that quite a lot, because we base our decisions on insights, whether that is market insight or service done externally or by ourselves. It depends on what we want to achieve. If it's a new product, then the product team will do conjoint analysis within the market, but if we are analyzing churn, we would obviously look at the churn survey or leave survey to say why do they churn, what do they say, and we have a system where we can analyze what they write in free text, not only the answers ABC. And if we have launched something new, we often have a survey right after, just to say, how did it go? Did you do this on purpose, or how did this experience? How would it be for you? Did you find it easy to choose or find what you were looking for, whatever? And then we can, then this will be part of the aftermath of something, of a launch, for instance. And we have also this larger service conducted by external companies, which we buy and then provide every quarter, where we are compared with our competitors. And we can share that on Workplace, for instance, or even inside podcasts on customer insight, actually. Customer data insight. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. It seems, I hear that you've got you've got the systems, you've got a voice of customer program in place. You know that you need to be listening to the customer. You're using different sources and channels to listen to the customer, and you've operationalized the way that you actually respond and manage the feedback. So really impressive story, which is very, I think, your story, Camilla, is so practical and operational that I think for our listeners, there's quite a lot to take away here.
And let me just add, I think, and this is, of course, I'm not totally objective coming from telecom as well, but I think telecom, at least in Norway, and maybe even in the Nordics, I think the telecom are the companies that have sort of embraced working with the customer experience, putting it into system, having a voice of the customer program, having the churn analysis going, having the insight, the data engineering, people going, smashing the data, trying to do predictive analysis. I think I've never worked in any company or any other industry who has had sort of their focus more on track than what telcos do. So it's impressive, really. And obviously there's a lot of data going on in these industries because of basically the way they operate and work. So yeah.
Okay, jumping from data to people.
Nice one.
Yeah. So the next question is, what role do you think employee experience plays in achieving a good customer-centric organization?
I think they play a significant role, because happy employees create happy customers. I think you can't have brand champions, or if they're not proud of where they work, they will not translate it into good customer experience either. If they hate their job, it's pretty obvious when you talk to that person on the phone that she or he hates her job. So I think it's very important to create a good working environment, and making sure all employees know why we're doing what we're doing, to have the strategy or North Star. This is why we are here to do business, and you're part of it. And we need every single one of you to join us in that matter. Because if they're proud of what they're doing, they will take pride in making the customer feel the same way. Yeah. So if they're not happy, the customer will definitely feel it. It's my
and I think sorry. Yeah. Allegation, maybe. Yeah, that's my.
That's
My
That's a bad
opinion,
word.
yeah.
No, not
My
elegant.
opinion, thank you,
My
Merete.
opinion.
You're doing it again.
Yeah, I am.
You're saving the English woman.
Where's my
I was
native
thinking,
English
what
co-host?
is the
Yeah. So I think, what you say, and this is obviously for the customer service reps, this is crucial. If you're talking firsthand with the customers, it's crucial that you're, happy and be, being provided with a good employee experience to do a good job and provide a good customer experience. But I also think, for the back office people or, the developers who are sort of digging far into the code, if they, and you're going to love me for this, Joanna, if they understand what job the customer has to be done, right? What is their job to be done? Even if you don't talk directly to the customer, but you understand that this is what we're trying to help them do. And if I actually engage and if I understand and if I dive deep into how is it that what I'm doing here with this little piece of code can help the customer get their job done more easily or faster, or but you're not going to have that enthusiasm if you're not happy at work, if you're not thriving, if you're not being served good coffee, right? So I think, and we've come back to this so many times, I think in earlier episodes as well, the fact that HR will always get the money to throw a great party for every employee, but then you never measure how happy you do measure once maybe how happy the employees are, but you don't have to prove sort of the ROI of investing in your employees when it comes to sort of employee parties or good coffee or initiatives, working out during work hours, etc. But it's funny how we have to fight so hard to do the same initiatives towards our customers, isn't it? And then again, the customer experience we measure all the time with NPS and CSAT and God knows what, but the employee experience is just measured once a year with the, Great Place to Work. So it's quite ironic, but at the same time, I think that you can learn from each other. So
I think the to explain the purpose, and I'm very happy we have defined roles within our organization, which they are commercial resources, but they create the bridge between the commercial environments or the business side and the technology side. So their role is to make sure that the commercial needs are prioritized right. But then you can't just say do this. You have to explain we need this developed because we are going to do this and this for the customers. So we have that connection between the commercial side and the technology side, which I think is crucial for just what you're saying, Merete, that it's not just the customer care agents that needs to be happy. It's everyone, and if a developer knows that what he or she is making will make it better for the customer, I think it will be more fun.
It's easier to get up in the morning, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and hit you with the last question for today, Camilla. It's been so much fun having you. I think when you talk to somebody who works where you used to work and who it's always the little risk of talking too much about stuff that and not taking into consideration that. So I hope the listeners have been able to follow us, with verbatims that if I suppose, Joanna, you would have stopped if we went into.
I would have stopped, absolutely, and I think I think that this episode there has been so much to take away and learn of practical ideas and advice, and whether it's whether our listeners are working within the telco, I really don't think that matters, because the things that we've touched upon today are relevant for for the majority of customer-centric businesses today. So, I'm
glad to hear. So, Camilla, finally then, what we want to pick your brain on is, and basically this is just from your own experience, if is there a brand out there or, a company or someone who stole your heart when it came to CX and who provided you with a great experience that you just won't forget and that you sort of have as your, this is what I want to be part of creating one day, or,
Yeah, I had to think about that question for a while, but it occurred to me that when I use Vips, I quite often think, oh, that's a good idea. And I kind of get the feeling that they've listened to their customers telling them that, ooh, it would have been nice if we could do this and this. And then suddenly the feature is there. And I think, oh, now this is possible to do. That's great. And I've never had a bad experience with Vipps. No. It's so easy to use, and it just keeps improving. So it has occurred to me repeatedly that now they've been told something new from the customers that this should be a great feature, or why don't you have this? And then a week later they have it.
They've been listening to you.
So just to sort of explain, Vipps is what they in Sweden would call Swish, and I think in Denmark it's called Vipps as well. But they used to call it mobile pay. So it's basically a way to pay, to send people money directly from your phone without sort of having to do the exchange of account
instant
numbers.
Transfer of money between peers.
Yeah.
And
children love it.
Yeah. And what I love about this service as well, Joanna, is that when you Vipps someone money, you get to see their real birth name, like their proper name. So if you have several names, Joanna Elizabeth, you get to see their name. So, if you're on a date, you have their phone number, you're a little bit worried that they sort of gave you the wrong name or whatever, then ask them if you can send them some money on Vipps, because then you get their name. This is from Stalker. Yeah. So thank you again, Camilla, for joining us today on the CXPod. It's been a pleasure having you. To everyone who's been listening, check out Camilla's LinkedIn. We're going to put a link to your LinkedIn page on the show notes, and also pay attention to Lyse Tele and to Ice, and even the other brand Nice, which is also kind of cool as well. They have a pretty awesome commercial out right now with a bodybuilder who, we'll see if we can find the link for that too. But thank you so much. You have been listening to the CXPod, and we'll see you again next time.
That's all for this episode of the CXPod. A big thank you to our sponsor Netigate, helping you collect and analyse all your customer feedback in real time. Go along and discover more at netigate.net.
Thank you for listening to the CXPod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.